All I hear is talking, I don't sweat that. If they don't trust me either, I respect that. If she be down the ride, oh, I bet that.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is JH. How y'all doing, Postal family? Everybody good, everybody cool, everybody clean, everybody crisp, Yo, it's 420. Everybody hiring. Let's talk, Postal family. Let's talk. First and foremost, we gonna talk about people working on Sundays. Y'all know we can't work on a Sunday. Trust me. You know what? This is too much. Screw this thing. This people got me looking silly on here. Let's talk. All right, so individual sat here and wrote me yesterday, and I try to avoid it because Jay not political, and I am religious, but I try to leave this out of our conversations. This here has sat here and has taken the country by storm, and there's some people that are gonna be trying to utilize this for their future and taking off on Sundays, so on and so forth. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court seems sympathetic to postal worker who didn't work Sundays in dispute over religious accommodations. Man, this is interesting. Now, I'm going to be very neutral with this. I have a very strong opinion, but, we gonna try, just a backstory. The Supreme Court seemed to side with a former mail carrier and evangelical Christian who says the U.S. Postal Service failed to accommodate his request to not work on Sundays. A lower court had ruled against the worker, Gerald Groff, holding that his request would cause an undue burden on the USPS and lead to low morale at the workplace when other employees had to pick up his shifts, as if that don't go on already. But during oral arguments on Tuesday, there appeared to be a consensus. After almost 2 hours of oral arguments, the appeals court had been too quick to rule against Groff. There seems to be, as Justice Keegan put it, some level of kumbayaing between the justices on the bench at times. We're going to get right to it. Critically, however, Justice Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh were sympathetic to the arguments made by the Postal Service that granting Groff's request might cause morale to plummet among other employees. As if this don't happen already. This is comical. Oof. And several justices nodded to the financial difficulties the USPS has faced over the years. Groff, who lives in Pennsylvania, served in 2012 as a rural carrier associate at the United States Postal Service. Keyword associate, RCA, was not a career. A position that provides coverage for absent career employees who have earned the ability to take off weekends. See, these people really don't know what we do. Rural carrier associates are told they need flexibility. No, they're not just told that. That is the requirement. When you go on the website, it tells you that your days off may vary and hours may vary. It literally says that when you click it and you go to apply. That's for every single craft. You don't get the choice. You work when they need you. But again, I'm going to be neutral in this. In 2013, Groff's life changed when the USPS contracted with Amazon to deliver packages on Sundays. Groff's Christian religious beliefs bar him from working on Sundays. I don't know about that. I was raised as a Pentecostal Christian, and we did go to church on Sundays, usually half the day. And it was said that on the seventh day he rested. But who are we to know which day was the seventh day? Nonetheless, the post office contemplated some accommodations to Groff, such as offering to adjust his schedule so he could come to work after religious services or telling him he should see if other workers could pick up his shifts. At some point, the postmaster himself did the deliveries because it was difficult to find employees willing to work on Sunday. Finally, the USPS suggested Groff choose a different day to observe the Sabbath. The atmosphere with his co-workers was tense, and Groff said he faced progressive discipline. In response, he filed complaints with the EEO, which is charged with enforcing federal laws that make it illegal to discriminate against an employee because of religion. Groff ultimately left in 2019. In a resignation letter, he said he had been unable to find an accommodating employment atmosphere with USPS that would honor his religious beliefs. He sued, arguing the USPS violated a federal law that makes it unlawful to discriminate an employee based on religion. To make a claim under the law, the employee must show that he holds a sincere religious belief that conflicts with a job requirement. He must inform his employer and has to have been disciplined for failing to comply. This is you guys can read this anywhere. It's all over the internet right now. So let's dissect that. It's a very long article, but we don't want to continue going there. As a postal worker, we are daunted with the task of working 7 days a week because that's what it requires. Ever since the Postal Service started, from the beginning, before the whole country was actually formed. Yes, that's kind of how it was way back when. Mail moves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is just me putting the facts out there, not an opinion. This is the facts. So for those employees that want to have the day off on Sunday, I understand we all want it off. But if you apply for any job, it is the individual's responsibility to go and seek the information about the job that you are applying for. When I applied, I knew, hey, there's a chance that I'm going to be working Sundays. I'm going to be working nights and we're working early mornings, because it clearly says that in the description of every single craft, because it's just what it is. Now, when you open up that can of worms as far as the religious beliefs, okay, so if I were, let's say, a Muslim, Muslims pray at certain hours of the day to the sun, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me. And they have to stop and they do the whole, where they bend and they pray for a certain amount of time. Can you fathom your carrier that is delivering your mail just stopping in the middle of a route and just getting out his vehicle on his knees and praying? That's not a dig at anybody, but that's just the reality of what they're actually saying. Accommodating to religious beliefs. We can do this with every single career, technically. So if you work for Walmart, which is also open 7 days a week, what happens then? Because people believe in, majority of the people in this country believe in something, unless you're atheist. And you can utilize this argument for damn near everything. There are 7-day Adventists that, they believe to worship on Saturdays. So where do we start and end this conversation? Now, as far as a 7-day work week with us, people don't work 7 days. That just happens to be one of the days that they are scheduled to work. They didn't schedule him to work because they were going against his religious beliefs. They were scheduling him to work because of the needs and the requirements of the rural carrier associate at that time. Can we blame Amazon for this? Sure, if you want to. But really, who is to blame? And should we, in your opinion, not have a Sunday delivery or not work Sundays, period? Because if that happens, the delays that we already have when it comes down to, because if you guys think you all are going to take the days off on Sunday and the truck drivers still got to work because we still got to move the mail, then you're sadly mistaken. Just sadly mistaken. And it also does cause an undue burden to everybody else, because if you're delaying the whole process of a moving machine it only gets backed up. So on Sundays, for instance, the truck drivers tend to bring mail to stations so that the dock itself doesn't get backed up. They'll have some clerks at some stations that'll work it a little bit so that they're not overburdened the following morning. That's how that works. And let's just say no carriers worked on a Sunday to deliver those parcels. Imagine what the parcel load would be like on a Monday. I mean, Mondays are typically the heaviest day of the week. So can you fathom how much that would burden? Now, he apparently won this lawsuit. It went all the way up. Now, I don't know if he won money from it, but I know that they definitely had a big discussion regarding this. And whew, man. Even in one of his statements, he said he told the high court that USPS could have done more and was wrong to claim that respecting Groff's beliefs was too erroneous. He urged the justices to cut back or invalidate precedent and allow accommodation that would allow the worker to serve both his employer and his God. Sunday's a day where we get together and almost taste heaven, Groff told the New York Times. We come together as believers, we celebrate who we are together, we worship God, and so to be asked to deliver Amazon parcels and give all that up is just really kind of sad. This is where feelings they interfere with business, and this is all over the country. Our feelings about what we should and shouldn't do does not stop the business model. My dishwasher just stopped. It's not part of the business model. That is the longest dishwasher thing. Anyway, so what can we do? If a business model says, hey, we need to operate these days of the week, then what? Suppose the police just didn't work on Sundays. Do you think that every police officer in this country isn't religious? Seriously. Come on now. They eventually get to a point where they're able to take those days off. And if we all know the post office, eventually once you become a full-time career employee, you're able to have your Sundays off or pick the bid you want. It just doesn't happen overnight. Now, whether this was just an excuse or it was sincere, who knows? Now, again, I'm not knocking anybody because I was raised very, very, very religious. My children's names, Israel, Elisha, Emmanuel, Jordan, Abel. So I understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, I also understand the business needs. Do I burden my coworkers because I refuse to show up on a Sunday with more work? That already happens now. Just tell somebody that the football game is on and they're not going to show up to work. Y'all know for a fact, if you didn't know, now you know, that when the Super Bowl happens the next day, it's a staggering 40% of the postal workers don't show up to work. That's just what it is. Stick to the topic, Jay. Should we or should we not have to work on Sunday? Now, I gave you my personal situation because I am religious. But at the same time, I do understand the business needs. In your opinions, what do you guys think we should be doing when it comes down to working Sundays? Have your conversations and your discussions below. This is JH. And if you choose to read the article, please read it in its entirety so that you guys have a full scope of what actually happened and how one person brought our post office up to the Supreme Court because of a religious requirement or a religious desire. This is JH. We out.